Hello everyone, this is Saurabh Sharma, and in this video we will be discussing that China is building a bridge over Pangong Lake in Ladakh region because it will bring down time to move troops and equipment for the Chinese People's Liberation Army. Pangong Lake, as you know, that there was an tough clash and escalation in early May 2020, where Indian Army personals and PLA's personals got a major clash in which many soldiers from Indian side actually suffered, and of course Chinese side also would have suffered. This Pangong So Lake, some quick points about this Pangong So Lake would be important to discuss. India holds 1/3 of the 135-kilometer long boomerang shaped lake. This Pangong So Lake is a boomerang shaped lake, and it is 135 kilometers long, and just about 1/3 of this lake is in India, and it is a transboundary lake. So let's say if this is the lake, so India has 1/3 and rest of 2/3 is in Tibet, where it is known as Pangong Lake. And Pangong So is an endorheic lake. That means it is a landlocked lake, and that is partly in India's Ladakh region and partly in Tibet. An endorheic basin is essentially a closed drainage basin that retains water with no outlet into rivers and oceans. And this lake is generally formed through the melting of ice. And it has high salt content in its water. Therefore, it is known as the highest saltwater lake at the height of 14,000 meters. I'm sorry, 14,000 feet. Meters would have been 14 kilometers, so that is why I took a pause. So it is 14,000 feet it is located at. Despite the high salt content of the lake, in winter its surface freezes commonly because salt actually prevents freezing of water, because it drops the freezing point. If generally it is 0 degrees Celsius, so it will take to, let's say, minus 30 degrees Celsius or minus 25 degrees Celsius for the water to freeze. But it is a very uncommon phenomena, but occurs when the temperatures are too low to avoid the freezing of water. So despite salt, the water freezes. Right? Now the location of the lake. Carefully look at the map. Here, if this is the India's boundary with Tibet, so the lake is just here, this 1/3 portion in the long fingered shape, or because if entirety is considered, it is basically a boomerang shape. So this part is in India, that is 1/3, and this part is in Tibet, which is roughly 2/3 or little more than that, because India is approximately it's 1/3. And if we see the location of this lake, it is generally in the Changchenmo range, just sitting down, which is referred to as fingers, and the water from these areas of these glaciers, that is Changchenmo. The Changchenmo glaciers. This ice is melting and the water is coming into this Pangong So. lake. And the lake exactly is near the Himalayas of Chushul mountains across Changla Pass. And the Karakoram mountain range, which crosses Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, China and India with heights of over 6,000 meters, including K2, the world's second highest peak after Everest, ends at the north bank of Pangong Tso. Here, the big mountains, the larger mountains are generally descending and ending here. So here the water descends from the Changmo glaciers and the water is getting collected here in this region, and this is a landlocked lake, that is endorheic lake, so there is no outlet of water and water remains here only. So this is the geographical aspect. Now let's look at some chemistry related aspects, that how the salt is playing the role. The presence of salt in water reduces the freezing point of water. UPSC might ask that it increases the freezing point of water. No, you have to be very careful, because if the temperature goes below 0 degrees Celsius, then it will get freeze. If it increases, so that means it will go higher than 0 degrees Celsius, which is not the phenomena we are looking for. The more salt in the water, the lower the freezing point. Also important for prelims. Now, the presence of salt makes it harder for water molecules to bond to the ice structure. It is not, because ice naturally repels salt molecules. So this bonding of water molecules to make ice after getting freeze, it is basically stopped by salt presence. The salt also bumps into the ice, knocking water molecules off the structure, and that's how salt melts ice. So salt is contributing towards the melting of the ice. Therefore, the freezing point actually decreases or even go higher, less. When salt molecules displace water molecules, the freezing rate slows down. Freezing rates slow down. So at the one point, it is actually pushing the temperature further down, and it also reducing the rates of freezing. This is why salt is often used on icy roads to slow down freezing and makes them safer to travel upon, especially in the countries which are in the temperate regions. Then Pangong Tso is also known to change colors. That is blue, green and red at different times, but this phenomena is generally seen as the refraction at high altitudes and change in the sky color at different hours of the day. Hours per day, the sun angle is changing. Therefore, the angle of incidence of lights making the reflection or refraction accordingly. Therefore, the color is changing. The air is thin here. Why thin? Because this is a cold region. Therefore, the thin atmosphere is very thin, and hence here the issue is that pollution is almost near to nil. And no atmospheric pollution to block out the sun rays. Therefore, it is due to this interplay of factors, that is cold region, thin air. The lake water appears to look so blue in the day, and the color keeps changing with the intensity and angle of the sun rays during the cycle and setting or downing of the sun. This is the phenomena. The lake is an important breeding ground for a variety of birds, including a number of migratory birds, that is the bar-headed goose and Brahmini ducks. Please keep it in mind that where would you find these two species of birds who are migratory in nature, in or near to which water body? So that is in Pangong Tso Lake. Pangong Tso is in the process of being designated under the Ramsar Convention, protected land as wetland. For international importance, the first such trans-boundary wetland in South Asia, if it is declared. It will be the first such trans-boundary because it is in India and Tibet. Next, the world's largest solar telescope, Pangong Tso, the world's highest saltwater lake, will soon notch up yet another record, that is Merak. the solar telescope will be named as MERAK. 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 At the Pangong Lake has been chosen at the site for setting up the world's largest telescope. The National Large Solar Telescope, fitted with a 2-meter reflector, 2 meters, such a huge, big circumference is that, will help scientists in carrying out cutting-edge research to understand the fundamental process taking place in the sun. And of course, here ISRO is also planning Aditya L1 to study the sun phenomena. It will also help the scientific community to study the long-term changes in the Earth's climate and environment, and also provide useful data to carry out research in order to minimize or remove disruptions to communications network and satellites due to periodic solar winds. This phenomena is known as sun outages because of solar winds or flares. And also the position of sun and angle of Earth with respect to the sun position, this sun outages has occurred. So here, in this way, the satellite communication and the transmission of information system is generally get disturbed for 7 to 8 minutes for a couple of days every year. The site was selected after studies showing that Pangong So Lake site at MERAK was very promising and offered longer sunshine hours because of this geographical location near to this area. Once installed, this telescope will take over the #1 status for the McMath Pierce Solar Telescope, which has a diameter of 1.6 meters in Kitt Peak National Observatory at Arizona in the US as biggest telescope. So once placed at MERAK, this solar telescope will be the world's largest solar telescope. Now, who controls Pangong So? Fingers in the region refers to the spurs which extend to the banks of the high altitude Pangong lakes. India believes it has the right to patrol from finger 1 to 8. Here the dispute comes. While China believes it has right to patrol from finger 8 to 4. So that means the infringement of 4 fingers is mainly the figure of dispute. A spur. What is a spur? Is a lateral ridge or tongue of land descending from a hill. That means here. This is how this is known as spur. And here, if let's say also from the opposite side, the hills are also descending, so it creates a V-shaped valley. V-shaped valley. And generally in the gorges, the river flows. This is the common phenomena in the Himalayan regions. Right? Now, Indians need to obtain, just a second. Yes. Now, inner line permit with respect to Pangong So. For visiting this place, Indians need to obtain an inner line permit, and foreign nationals visiting this place are required to obtain a protected area permit. Always remember that there is only an inner line permit to visit Pangong So Lake. No, always is a wrong answer, wrong option. So because protected area permit is also available for the foreign nationals if they want to travel from Leh to Pangong So Lake. The lake falls on the Sino-Indian line of actual control. LAC is in the western sector of India and China boundary, and the most eastern sector near the Arunachal Pradesh area is known as McMahon Line. McMahon Line, always remember, because the entire boundary between India and China is not considered as McMahon. Like the western sector and the central sector in the areas of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, it is known as the line of actual control, right? India and China have unsettled borders at 3 fronts, and the perception of the LAC differs in multiple sectors, including on Pangong So because of the distraction in the geographical demarcations. It is not possible because water body has its irregular shape, and this boomerang shape of this lake makes it very difficult and complex process to demarcate the border easily. Therefore, this issue of India's claim of patrolling from finger 1 to 8, and China's backclaim of patrolling or having its guarding obligations from finger 8 to back to 4 is making her trouble. Now, the lake does not have major tactical significance, but it lies in the path of the Chushul approach, one of the main approaches that China can use for an offensive into Indian held territory. Indian assessment shows that a major Chinese offensive, if it comes, will flow across both the north and south of the lake. One more thing, that India can easily guard, or India has a stronghold at the south bank of the lake, whereas the northern banks of the lake is not that easy to control from the Indian side, because the spurs is making difficulty for the Indian personnel to access this area due to the geographical terrain. During the 1962 war, this was where the China launched its main offensive. The Indian army fought heroically at Rezangla, the mountain pass on the southeastern approach to Chushul Valley, where the Ahir company of 13 Kumaon led by Major Shaitan Singh made its last stand. This was a question in KBC also, for 1 crore, that who was given the medal by the Indian army for controlling and fighting bravely in the Rezangla in Ladakh region during the 1962 war. Militaries of the two sides regularly hold border personnel meeting at 5 points, and the 5 points are Daulat Beg Oldi in northern Ladakh, Kibithu in Arunachal Pradesh, Chushul in Ladakh, Bumla near Tawang, Tawang is in Arunachal Pradesh, and Nathula in Sikkim to resolve boundary related issues. You might have select the wrong. UPSC might give you options that Bumla is in Arunachal Pradesh or Kibithu is in Sikkim. So that's how you should remember that what is the correct answer here. So this is about this Pangong Tso Lake, because it has been in news last year in 2020 May, when the first lockdown was declared. This is becoming a great sort of tension between India and China. And China having major advancements in technological aspects and having a good control in Tibet region is always a threat to Indian sovereignty from these sectors. China's effort of building this bridge over the lake will reduce the travel time for PLAs in the times of emergency by significant amount of time, because presently it is taking 12 to 15 hours by crossing the fingers and by reaching to the opposite side or opposite bank in the Chinese territory only. But after the building of this bridge, it will reduce somewhere about 140 kilometers travel and the invested time for the PLAs, which is strategically making China or bringing China in the stronger position as compared to India. And Indian side in the northern banks of the lake is significantly tougher due to the proximity of terrain and also the weather related issues. And nearby, India's infrastructure is not that strong for the immediate supplies of arms, materials, health supplies and military strategic weapons or equipments. So therefore India's position need to be strengthened there, and India also planning to build an airstrip there so that immediate supplies can be ascertained. So this issue, and where regularly border talks are happening between the officials of Indian Army and PLA's army, here the concrete discussion is not yet out, and India and China must come on table, speak to, because these two nations must focus on economic aspects. And if the border areas are disputed, the status quo must be maintained, because there is no immediate threat from each side, or there should not be any immediate threat from either of the sides towards the opposite member. And about the India's and China's international relations or bilateral relations, we will be covering in a separate video thoroughly. So that was all about the Chinese efforts of building a bridge on Pangong Tso Lake in Chinese territory in Ladakh region. Hope you understood the topic. Thank you so much.